with pursuing the relationship with Betty. Last time, it's funny because last time we saw you, you guys were shooting the episode where you have your first kiss,
right?
And we talked about
Which is episode 6.
Yeah,
yeah,
and we talked about the idea of like asexual Jughead from the comics,
Yeah.
and how it was something you were interested in pursuing, but you didn't think the writers were. How do you think that the audience response to that will be? Because obviously,
sure. I think it first and foremost, this conversation deserves more time than something that we can quickly do here. But there are two forms of representation Jughead has received over time. In Zdarsky's Jughead, he's asexual. That's the only Jughead where he is asexual. He's aromantic in the digest, which is a different thing, but deserves attention as well. But what I found when I was really diving in, because once we started putting Jughead and Betty together, I started doing research to see if that was a narrative that even existed in the digest. And it turns out it is. It's a narrative that's existed for a long time. There are a handful of digests in which Jughead would say things like, oh, Betty, if I did like women, I guarantee you would be the one I would marry outright. You are the best person around. And say these things that, are really romantic and cute, with an appreciation for Betty. And I think it's become clear to me now that Roberto has taken off with that trend. As much as there is a large community of people that really want to see Jughead as asexual, and I am a huge proponent for that kind of representation, there's also quite a large community of avid Archie fans that want Betty and Jughead to be together too. So I think these are things we need to juggle when considering what Jughead is in Riverdale. This is a new universe. This is a new take on Jughead. And he is this tortured, damaged kid, this Holden Caulfield. And that narrative itself is also beautiful. And while I think that representation is needed, this Jughead is not that Jughead. This Jughead is not Zdarsky's Jughead, and this Jughead is not the aromantic Jughead. This Jughead is a person who's looking for a kind of deeper companionship with a person like Betty. And Betty ends up being this super nurturing, caring, caretaking person that, with Jughead's screwed up past, they end up really diving into each other, and it ends up being a beautiful thing. How are people going to respond? Truthfully, they're probably going to be quite incendiary about it at first. Do I think that's ill-placed? No. Do I think they should give it a shot? Yeah, I do. Because I think now, after filming 13 episodes, it makes sense to me. And if it makes sense to me as the person who's dumping so much time and especially so much argumentation into trying to represent Jughead correctly, if it makes sense to me, it'll make sense with other people as well.
So that I thought was interesting, as you're talking about needing kind of a deeper companionship that you haven't had in a long time. Do you think that part of that is the rift with Archie and the fact that you don't have a go-to?
Definitely. And it's also important to remember that though Betty and Archie, when they were younger, were this kind of cute couple, Jughead, Betty, and Archie were the three childhood friends. And so Betty knows Jughead probably just as well as Archie does in certain ways, and she is also this sort of nostalgic force that was once morally just. Like I do believe Jughead is absolutely obsessed with what once was Riverdale. And Betty still represents this kind of morality and purity that he associates to this more Peter Pan-like childhood version of Riverdale, and finds great comfort in that, and becomes easily accessible and resonates with him. And so, yeah.